Howdy folks, well, welcome back. I want to thank Bob again for sending me this picture to look at. Unfortunately, I'm still not getting to the things that he wanted me to show. I will get back to that, I promise you, Bob. But I was kind of overwhelmed by some of the other things I was seeing in this picture. And I noticed that Mars Anomalies and Beyond are looking at this very same picture. He may even have had a couple videos on it, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I never had the time to watch my subscriptions. I just kind of see what's there and I'd give it a quick scan, but I definitely saw he was looking at this stuff. So if we're covering some of the same things, sorry about that. It's coincidental. There's plenty here for us all to look at for Mars Anomalies and Beyond, and myself and Jimmy and Art Alien. They can all look at. There's plenty to go around here. There's so much stuff in these pictures. And right now we're going to be off to the left-hand side of the mountain. We're going to kind of work over to the right. And just like the videos that I've made recently, the last 6 or 7 videos or so, they've been really exceptional pictures, and they're showing us things that are really beyond what you would be able to imagine. To think that those buttes that we were looking at were nothing but man-made material, and everything as far as the eye could see, including the ground, was man-made material, and that's what we have here as well. The stripes coming down from the top, I think, are a photographic processing thing or something, and they do interfere somewhat with what we're looking at, but at the same time we're going to be looking at lines going horizontally from left to right. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get a little further into it, but the lines coming down from the top cause a grid work look, and whenever we see that grid work look, that's actually what we're looking at. You just have to try and imagine it without the actual grid. But here you see a semicircular thing on the left-hand side here. Comes in from the 9 o'clock and circles around, down, around towards us. And then on the other side, a straight line going up that almost looks like a wall. It just kind of ends right there. And this covers a very, very, very large area, you guys. I mean, we're zoomed in from way far away, and I mean a really long ways away, and this stuff is just, it's everywhere on the ground. And you can see this well-defined area here where it's looks like something that was like a torn piece of paper. And there's this little diamond shaped craft sitting on there. I think that's what it is. The resolution isn't that good. And if you look all the way in the back, just below the skyline, it looks like there's a dome back there, maybe 2. But we're really mostly interested in what's on the ground here because it's everywhere. And I just can't imagine. That's the whole thing. Nobody can imagine this stuff. You can't make this up. Whoever would have dreamed that we're going to see miles and miles and miles, so many square miles in the last videos, all of it completely covered with devastation. I'm running out of adjectives to describe what I'm seeing with all this destruction. I still am very affected by this because we're seeing vast areas of huge amounts of destruction. And I can't get over the fact that so many people died so long ago. More so that there was somebody actually willing to kill that many people. It's just beyond what you can fathom. Now this looks like a wall here or something, and it does have that grid work look to it, thanks to the lines coming down. But there are the horizontal lines, and these look like individual pieces. Or at least without the grid work part, without the lines coming down, there'd be long longitudinal pieces. And it's huge. This goes on forever. I mean, it goes on forever and ever. If you look in the background there, you can see an area well, there you go. I guess I forgot I put that in. It goes that entire distance. Now, how long of a distance is that? I mean, again, And everything from there coming back, as far as I can tell, is man-made material, except for maybe some sand. I'm frankly not even sure about that anymore. I'm not even sure about anything anymore. And so this is, again, something far back in the background, and you can easily see that this is not rocks. There's that dark sort of dome-shaped thing on the right. Looks like it has a hole punched in it. Something laying down on top of that mound. It's just one thing after another, and everything is decimated, and everything is, in my opinion, this is millions of years old. And if you look in the background, you see the little panels everywhere. This is what it looks like when you look at a ship. If you see how a ship is built, it's not huge, one solid sheet of metal. It's pieces put together, kind of like a quilt, and it's all welded together. And this is what it looks like. Look on the ground here. Now this thing here, to me, looks like some sort of a delta wing craft. It's upside down, and the wing on this side is severed, and there's a bunch of junk there. But look at the ground. You see those long strips? You see those? Okay, that's not ground. That's why it's all strippy looking like that. And this is a little bit different shape of a craft that we've seen before. It's sort of a semi-triangular and kind of a delta wing. And you guys, we've talked about triangular craft in the past. About in all the videos, we're seeing a lot of these triangular craft. And there's no shortage of them here either. It goes on and on. And while there's a picture of a small triangular craft here, I'm really focused on the ground. And taking a close look, you can see that this ground in the entire picture is made up of these strips. And you can still see the vertical lines coming down. It's not so prominent when you come closer to the camera, but you still can see it. But look down here in the very bottom. See those strips? They're warped and bent. This entire ground right here is covered with these metal strips. I'm assuming that they're metal. Who knows? Maybe they're plastic. I don't know, but it looks like metal to me. And here's another picture here of these strips coming down that cover the ground. And if we wanted to focus in on the ground above it, we would have the same thing. It doesn't matter where you go. Look down here in the bottom. You see the strips going from left to right at a different angle than the ones coming down. It's virtually covers this entire mountain. And I was going to save it for later, but and how many times have you heard me say this in the past, right or wrong? There are no rocks here. There's no rocks. Here's those strips. Here's a close-up, and look, there's some sort of a triangular thing sitting in between those strips. Isn't that unusual? So these strips are above the ground, I guess. And I don't know what to call them other than, visually looking at it, you see long rectangular-shaped strips, either nice and straight or sometimes warped and bent. But they do cover everything that there is. And that's why I say that there's nothing, this is not your average everyday mountain. I don't know if this mountain is like the buttes, where the buttes are made entirely of man-made material. It could very well be. I mean, why not? Anything's open anymore. It keeps getting crazier and crazier, and you can't close your mind. You have to leave your mind wide open so you can see what's in front of your face. None of it makes sense to us to think that there's this much of man-made material covering how many, I don't know, hundreds of square miles either here or in all the pictures that I've had recently. it just doesn't make sense. You just can't. So where did it come from, right? Did they build it here on the ground? They just decided to cover the mountain with metal strips? No, I don't think so. I think this is the remains of vessels that have come down. And then you have things that came down on top of that, like this other little triangular thing sitting here. It's actually not, it's a complicated shape. It's not just a triangle. There's more to it there. But that's what it is. It must have come down. If you remember the first pictures that we were looking at in this video, where there were sheets of it on the ground. You know, it all came. There were massive vessels that came down. I have one massive one coming up too, and this is very interesting. Some of these pictures I just threw in because they're interesting. I mean, I don't know what that is, but again, if you look at the ground behind it, you can very easily see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these strips. And another thing I've noticed, we see these holes here, and I think that the weight of this stuff is and covering the mountain, and it's dealing with gravity, and I think it's acting very much like a glacier. I guess this is the Mars version of a glacier, right? And this stuff is being pulled down, and it stretches apart, and it causes these holes. And there's some other areas that we're going to look at coming up pretty soon here that show a little bit more what I'm talking about. Now, I've said many times that I've overlooked or didn't bring to you pictures that I've seen of things that, particularly triangular crafts, that were didn't stand out very well. And this one doesn't necessarily stand out very well either. And like I said before, it doesn't take much imagination to see a ship right here. And what we're looking at right there, I think, is a bridge or a cockpit. And to the right of that, up on top, is the remains of a gun, turret-mounted gun. And if you look right in the center, it looks like there's a window right there, possibly. And right in front of that is a big divot or a big hole right there in the deck of that vessel. And then the area towards the front here, from the bottom up where the line cuts across, that's the side of the vessel. It's quite large, and it's been destroyed. And this is maybe the second picture I've seen that tells me that this vessel was targeted. This wasn't just caught up in a huge calamity of nuclear destruction or something. This is something that was targeted, and I'm going to show you coming up here exactly what I mean by that. But it looks to me like there's a cockpit there, and it looks like you can see seats in there. I don't know. Now take a look at here, coming in from the 9 o'clock side. There's a big semicircular cut right out of the side of that ship, out of the deck and out of the side. You see that? It's like a big bite. And so I have a question. What in your mind could make that kind of a cut out of the side of a ship? Okay. To me, the only thing I could think of is a laser. A nice semicircular, perfectly shaped semicircular shape there. And I think that it was not only a laser, but a laser that, we think of lasers as, a pencil thin, beam of light. This looks like a beam of light that was maybe, I don't know, 100 feet across. So what can you imagine a laser that might shoot a beam out that's 100 feet across or more or less? I mean, look at that. It's perfectly shaped, got cut right out of there. That had to be like an enormous laser. That doesn't happen by accident. No way. So there's other parts to this. We're going to go to the back. So we were towards the front of it. Now we're going towards the back. And behind that bridge area is up on a protrusion sticking up is something else. We're at the far right of the screen is what we're looking at. If you look at the far left of the screen, you'll see the bridge of the ship. I just did that for a perspective for you. But this looks like another vessel sitting on the back here, whether it's mounted on this protrusion or if it's just where it ended up. It looks an awful lot like a delta wing aircraft, as in not a spacecraft, but an aircraft. So many similarities to what we have on Earth. The only thing I don't see on that one is a vertical tail fin. It's a beautiful place. It's always those beautiful places, where the unexpected stuff comes from. I just drew an outline of that, how far back it goes. On the far left, you can see where the divot was cut out, where the laser cut it out, and it's quite large. But I have something a little bigger coming up. Now, one thing I noticed when I was looking at this thing, I'm seeing all these rocky outcroppings, right? And then I started seeing the fact that so many of these rocky outcroppings come in twos. Two. And those aren't rocky outcroppings. Those are the remains of vessels, just like right here. Do you see this triangular shape? And the dark wall, that we'll call it right in front of us, is the side of that vessel. So we're looking only at the one side from this angle. And you can see where it has like a fantail in the back, and it comes down to a little more pointy in the front. And that is that's what you're looking at. That is not rocks. That is here's another destroyed triangular craft up on top, and again we get to see the side of it just from this side. Now here's another one. You can see all the lines right in front there, but there's something accompanying it that looks very interesting. Kind of reminds me of something I saw in a movie. Of course, that's the way this stuff goes, right? It reminds you of, you try to relate it to whatever you can. But this looks like there's a little craft here. That's what it looks like to me. And frankly, you see this exact shape everywhere, whether it's covered with stuff or not. It almost looks like it has a little window there covering it for the cockpit. Now, and these are some of the rocks up front that we see in these little hilly areas. And you notice that all of these rocks have little black divots, little black holes. These are not rocks. This is all metal material that is falling apart, and it's not solid. It's not like a rock. And so it falls apart and it leaves these little cracks. And these are the little black divots that we see everywhere. And right here is a great example of how these things are put together. You can see all the individual plates that were one time welded together, whatever you want to call it. I have a couple more pictures that will demonstrate this as well. Yeah, but these are not rocks, not even close. They're not hills, it's not dirt, it's not natural. This is man-made material. And again, here we see kind of a grid work. Again, coming down the lines coming vertically, aren't there, but the rest is. What do you mean they're not there? So what I'm seeing, well, we have to try and imagine it without these vertical lines. But here's another example of these what look like rocks, and right in front of us here is that humpy shape. That's the same shape of that little craft I showed you in the beginning of this series right here. And the item right in front there looks like something. I don't know what you would what it is at all. It has a flat surface area there at the top of it, even though it's angled off. So, what happened? I just, who knows? It had to be a massive war. Okay, now look right in the center here. You have a great example of these plates that I'm talking about. This time in color. And by the way, I am using a filter, and it does give a false color, but man, it sure makes it clear. And I'm going to have a link to the GIGAPAN in the description, and you can check it out for yourself. Now, everywhere you see these dark lines cutting across, and this is a pretty close-up shot of it here. These dark lines are the leading edge of the hull that is falling apart over time. Does that make sense? It's solid up until you get to the edge here, this leading edge, and slowly over time, these things in this leading edge are going to fall down. But it's you see these continuous lines everywhere like this, and that's just a great example of how this is covering the ground. Now here's a picture. Back in my video recently, I had a shot that said it looks like a duck, and this kind of reminds me. It looks exactly the same actually, and it's also shows you that, well, this particular thing that we're looking at looks like some kind of a vessel possibly, but you can see along the top of it there where it's falling apart. That's the leading edge of whatever it is that's coating everything. Same thing here. This is no rocks. These leading edges are falling apart over time, and this stuff is ending up going down on the ground, and it's going to end up looking like some of the pictures I've showed in the past, where the ground is completely covered with what looks like metal shards. And boy, when the sun hits it just right, yeah, you really get a lot of reflectivity. It's pretty interesting. But again, looking at this picture where you see these dark lines, these are the leading edges where it's falling apart. It was covered at one time, but it's falling apart. And look at this rock on the, this thing here. Look at that. What those strips of whatever the heck it is. I mean, this something it's just in tatters here. I just what does that? I mean, what causes that? It's just so incredible. And we'll get back to this part, but you see the mountain here, and then there's a dark stripe. So the mountain is very light in color, and then there's a dark stripe coming across. It's very interesting. It makes you wonder why it's like that. I have some ideas on that. But here we have more examples of these dark lines, frequently in twos. These are vessels. These are the remains of vessels. Sometimes you can see the triangular part. In other words, you can see the front. Now, up on top of the mountain here, there are certain things that identify this mountain from a distance. And when you look at it from a distance, you see various dark spots like these areas right here. And all of those identifying marks, every one of them is a vessel. It's not natural. It's the remains of something. So from a distance, you look at it and you say, well, looks completely normal. Of course it does. And then all of these identifying features are not what you expected. Here's a close-up of some of them that are out in the distance a little ways. You can very easily see that there's nothing there that looks anything like a rock. It's just this material that it's just, there's no definition. It's just falling apart. And the other thing I think is kind of strange is if this is the edge of a hull, in other words, if this mountain and other surrounding areas are covered with hull, it must have been awfully thick. And what is all the stuff coming out? I mean, a hull is generally plates, I guess. Now, here's an area coming in from the 9 o'clock position. You see it's pointy there. I'm thinking that maybe we have a very, very large triangular craft here. And we're going to just go along down the edge. You can see here that, again, this is leading edge. This was what I would say is the edge of this triangular craft. Again, you can see the plating, or the sheets of metal, the long sheets of plating, I suppose. And then here you can see the lines coming down the distance. So it started way over on the left, and this line goes virtually from one side of the screen to the other. And this is the very end of it. And you can see that where the mountain comes down, and it's a different color, and it meets up with this darker area. They're going in different directions, and they're completely different colors. And this goes from side to side on this mountain. And boy, I'm going to go way out on a limb here, but it is my contention, it is my view that this probably is also the remains of a vessel. We've heard of motherships and ships being miles long. Well, here you go. I think that's exactly what this is. Why would you have the different colors and all of the things that you see, that we've seen, that show you that these things are there? Oh boy, I hope I made my case, guys. I think we'll be looking at this picture quite a bit more. And Bob, I'm going to find those things you want me to see. Thanks for watching, folks.